Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. You just see Elijah Herbel. Now I'm here as we're getting things ready to rock and roll, record for a Thursday edition. Numbers to get in. Join us here on Hail Varsity. It's 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, Chris Schmidt at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. And as always, be sure to find the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio and follow along with Hail Varsity. Easy to do so. Plenty to get into. Plenty from Mark Whipple. Thoughts from Turner Corcoran and Coach Raiola to mention. It's been a busy day, been a bit of a pinata day for Nebraska, according to one journalist based out of New York that is a Irish correspondent. We'll get there. Deshaun Watson. Awful. Horrible. Press conference with him and his general manager. That's no good. Good news for Frank Solich. And also on that front, we will tell you about the Big Ten payday, which is so nice. So let's dive into it. First things first, Elijah. We don't have really much clarity when it comes to where things are at from Nebraska's starting five, starting quarterbacks. That's okay. You don't want to tip your poker hand to your opponent. But the thing we can kind of walk away with from today's post-practice is just that things are better. You seem and feel a little bit calmer on offense. I think when I'm told camp has been good, the guys have worked hard, I can believe it and not just keep pouring Kool-Aid. I mean, I think that's my feel. I believe, and it's been said in previous years, but I can believe that when I'm looked in the eye and told that it's been a good camp, there's a lot of football coaches that are new that have seen good camps before, and they feel like, yeah, it can always be better, but they're not in panic mode before they pack up and head across the pond.
Mm-hmm. And it's just been, I think, a case of the coaches playing their cards, most of them close to their chest. They don't want to give any scoops to Northwestern, so while they may say one thing, I think there's a true feeling within a team of another, especially when I look at the starting lineup. I don't think these coaches have any panic, but these coaches also aren't going to get up here and say, like, man, we're really worried about this offensive line headed over to Northwestern. It looks terrible, and they're not making the strides that we'd like. They're not going to say that.
We're just going to play with four.
Like, they're not going to give you anything.
We're going to have a triple tight end set to protect that right and left side on 3rd and 8. Just a one-man pass route. Got to have time to throw the football.
Like, they're going to play those cards close to their chest. So if there is any panic within the coaching staff, they're not going to let you know.
They are bluffing well, my friends.
I mean, if they have a starting five set out for the offense line, they're not going to let you know. If they have the starting running back in mind, they're not going to let you know. So if you're a loyal listener of Hail Varsity Radio, I do believe we have a pretty much a starting five pretty close to set in stone for the offensive line. I think we have a starting running back in place. I think we have a starting quarterback. If you just go and listen to what those coaches had to say to the media, you would think all those things are still up in the air. Here's the thing. We're into game prep now. The practices that they're conducting down at the stadium, they are focusing in on what the starters, yes, the starters, are going to be doing against Northwestern. So all the coaches might say, you know what, there's still 3 guys that are competing there. We're not quite sure. That's ridiculous. If you're a week and 2 days away from opening kickoff against Northwestern and you don't know who your starting running back is, you are so far behind the 8 ball, it's not even funny. Like, no, you got to have specific game plans in mind for who your starters are going to be. And if you don't know at this point, it's a big, big warning sign for Nebraska, and I think that's just what they're giving to the media.
Here's what you like. You like what you see, and here's what you hope for going into fall camp after spring. Here's the to-do list. Work on it. Get better. All right, let's have a scrimmage to either change our mind or make up our mind. Let's have a second scrimmage to solidify that we were right. Mm-hmm. But the thing I like about Coach Whipple, we'll hear from him in a minute, is I love the fact that he just talks to his guys. Hey, what do you like running? What's your favorite run play, freshman? Oh, you like the inside zone, do you? Well, if you're going in the game, guess what we're going to call for you? We're going to call your favorite run play, so you get a little confidence. You know what you're doing. Hey, Casey, what's your favorite pass play on 3rd and 8? Chubba, what do you like doing on 3rd and 6? Smothers, what are you good at, brother? I mean, and Barnett's talked about it. We'll talk to Coach Barnett in an hour. And you take a survey. Hey, what do you like doing? Here's what I think you're good at. What do you think you're good at? Let's find some common ground and pick about 5, 6, 7 pet plays that it doesn't matter if they know what's coming. They can't stop it. And it's so simple, but you have that communication. You have that experience. And you've got years of it going on, from head coach to quarterback tutor to offensive coordinator to now Nebraska offensive coordinator. So you've got some comfort. When's the last time you felt Nebraska's offense look comfortable? It was against who they're going to face over in Ireland. It looked comfortable against Northwestern because everything they did worked on a big play scale. And for the most part, Nebraska's been the anti-comfort inside the red zone a lot of times. Opening drive, the first 15 to 20 plays that have been scripted, Nebraska, Ohio State COVID year, Nebraska looked killer. They looked great. Mm-hmm. And then they drive the ball again, and what would happen? Turnover midfield, turnover short field in a lot of instances. So Mark Whipple was asked to get things kicked off with his media session. Where are things at? Hey, you want to tell us who the starter is at quarterback?
That's a head coach's decision.
Hasn't been me.
I don't know. You got to ask him.
Yeah, but I'm not telling.
Really good through. They've all gotten better from top to bottom, and they're really an approach. We got a really good room, fun to be around. We have some laughs, and they take it serious in that way. And so I feel good about it. If all the top 3 guys could play, they've worked with the ones throughout camp, and we could be more than functional as an offense.
So that was Mark Whipple, and letting us know where things are at. And no, I'm not telling you who the starting quarterback is. That's Frosty's call. This was good to hear from Whipple. The leadership. Last time he talked a week ago, he was all sorts of, he wasn't irate, but he wasn't happy. And did it get better from last week to this week with the vocal leadership? How has that come along? How's the offense come along in the past week? Are things better? Do you feel better about making the roadie?
Man, that was the worst day we had when I last talked to you, so I guess that's a good thing. If that was the worst day, it was still a little bit better on tape than we thought. So, our guys have done a good job taking care of the ball. We've really harped on that in the fundamentals and just in a run game and things that way. And today we added a bunch of new stuff. Yesterday for red zone, high red zone, we wanted to get it in a little ahead of time. So there was a few things there that we'll clean up, and then we'll have another session of red zone when we're in Ireland. But overall, these guys have worked hard, and I kind of told them a story today. There was a little bit of a lull in the practice, and they started to kind of get on one another, just say, come on, and I just said, look, you guys have worked hard. It's been a really good camp. They fought, and I said it reminded me when I had to call the plays in at the Super Bowl, and I thought right before that if I screw this play up, I won't be able to go back to Pittsburgh because they'll murder me. So those guys can't, it's important to them, but they got to relax. There's that fine line of just, hey, you've done well. We're going to make some mistakes. How are you going to handle adversity? So just a little reminder there that they can't get uptight and get on one another. It's important to them, and they're fun to be around, and it's been a really good camp. And all the offensive coaches have done a great job with these guys.
So that a couple of things from Mark Whipple. We'll get back there to Whipple. We'll hear from Turner Corcoran. We'll hear from Coach Raiola. I want to switch, though, and spend a little bit here on Dave Hannigan. And he unleashed the fury on Nebraska here. And his headline here, Irish fans set for the full college football experience as notorious Nebraska. The Cornhuskers come to town. Nebraska's ruthless college football institution have a reputation in the U.S. of often doing the wrong thing when it matters most. And listen, this is an opinion piece. This is also a hit piece. Listen, you have a chance to... You can tell the full story. Nebraska has not been perfect in their history. Absolutely not. But he goes through and highlights really damning stuff over the last 25 years. All right?
Oh, and he goes and picks bits and pieces from those damning stories over the past 25 years. Parts of the story. Parts of the story, conveniently leaving out some facts in order to shape his narrative.
Well... starting things off was the fact that, we're going to paint Scott as this win-at-all-costs coach in playing Maurice Washington in the opener in 2019 against South Alabama. Now, you pull some guys on the team. You pull a lot of guys in the media. I mean, you spent a lot of time on Mo, and it burned you. And he burned the team, quite honestly, with his decision-making and lack of to run up the middle. They force-fed the kid against Minnesota. He tried to bounce it outside every time with an O-line making holes. That's the football part. But from a morale standpoint, you're trying to start a team off and have a certain culture in the locker room, and then there's your stud recruit Mo that keeps screwing up. And I get wanting to give the kid a better life and keep him in school. Totally get the Father Flanagan take on things. Absolutely. But you're still playing him. And you're still playing him because of what he could do in Boulder, right? Swing pass that got completed actually for 75 yards and boom, it's a score. Phenomenal athlete. High-level recruiting battle. But it was Arizona State and Nebraska that are trying to rise from the ashes. Those are the two that kept after him. The rest of the college football world ran the hell away from Maurice Washington. So you start off this story about the revenge porn with Mo Washington. You talk about the rabid fan base, and then let's talk about Lawrence Phillips, right? And listen, you can never condone what Lawrence Phillips did, and Lawrence Phillips did a lot of stuff off the field that was horrible, totally horrible. There's people that I know that Lawrence Phillips student taught for. He worked at schools with kids that were disadvantaged. I mean, Lawrence had a lot of demons, man, and made some awful choices and did some wrong things, and he did time for him. But, Lawrence also, my tutor in math, when I was in high school, Lawrence was in her class, and she's like, the dude was the best of the kids I've ever seen. So there's always two sides to this story. Again, not trying to paint Lawrence as this hero, good dude, but he's not all bad, if that makes sense.
And it just seemed weird that they would drag that event from 25 years ago into the story and try to paint Scott Frost as a part of it, in some sense that, like, Scott Frost had something to do with the bad decisions that Lawrence Phillips was making. Like, that's on Scott Frost somehow. That's what the story would have you believe if you read it. I mean, if you're an Irish person who has no idea about the Nebraska program and you read that, you would think, oh man, Scott Frost was a big player here in all this Lawrence Phillips drama. But it's not the case.
There's they go in on Ron Brown pretty hard and heavy for some comments Ron Brown made.
Specifically, they pretty much called him homophobic, which personal views that have never impacted his ability to coach the game of football, or at least I'm
thinking
not that I can think of.
I'm thinking treatment of players.
Yeah,
I think he's treated kids pretty high level over 4 different decades. We're Ron Brown fans. But, I mean, you picked and choose, and guess what? We're talking about it. It's clicked. You have an irate fan base. But based on this guy's readership, what's Nebraska walking into? Walking into a road game? Well, technically, yeah, it's Northwestern's playground. But is this going to be Rocky going into Russia and Rocky 4? I'm quite honestly kind of asking the question. Is everybody in Ireland going to be wearing purple and black because of this guy's article? Don't know. There's going to be a few Nebraska fans over there, but not the full story about Nebraska football. There could have been, a mention of Team Jack, for sure, with what Nebraska's done.
There could have been a mention of Tom Osborne as the father of this program, really, and his work with the Teammates program. Nope.
There could have been a mention of the development that continues post football with Nebraska and their leadership down there. So, yeah, not the full story. We'll have more on the offense, thoughts on Whipple, the offensive line. Brandon Vogel joins us. Hail Varsity continues on a Thursday. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Coming up here in an hour, we'll spend time with Jeremiah Sirles. He's live at Vikings camp. Get his take on the O-line. And Gary Barnett with us, the Big Ten Big Payday. $1 billion, that's with a B. Brandon Vogel with us here in the StreamYard at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter, where you find him, managing editor, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Vogues is $1 billion and change. Good for you. Could you spend that appropriately?
Yeah, I could do some things with that. I could probably secure my future beyond a time where unfortunately, I'll have to give up doing this, talking about sports for a living. But yeah, I think I'd be able to make it work. It's a better situation than I'm in currently.
Well, your football office does look glorious, and you could do. And I've got nothing against paperbacks. Dream Like a Champion. I have it in paperback and hard copy. Your book with John Cook. But you could do all hard leather bound. I mean, you could go the whole Ron Burgundy. Lots of leather in the office.
That would be a significant chunk to replace everything I have, because some of these things aren't available in such a fancy binding. So I'd have to do that custom, but I'm into it. Like if I had $1 billion, I probably would.
Well, okay, this does what for Nebraska? This does what for coaches in the Big Ten? You tell me the pro and the con, if there is such a thing as a con of $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, college football's in a place, and I guess the good news is the pro for Nebraska is it's in the group along with the SEC, where they're like, you'll never have to worry about money. You're always going to be towards the top. You're always going to be able to outspend programs in other conferences. So that's the good thing, and the interesting thing about this, and I'm not willing to say it's a bad thing at this point yet or not. It's just a really bold move, is basically saying, hey, thanks ESPN, but no thanks. I mean, you think about, I think about, like, and I watch as much college football on a Saturday as I can. Like, it's probably unhealthy. And
no such thing as unhealthy amount of college football you're watching, I promise.
Yeah. And like ESPN dominates that. and it's dominated the playoff conversation to this point. That might be changing thanks to, in part at least, what the Big Ten has chosen to do here. But it's just like ESPN is where you go for that. And the Big Ten has said in 2 years, basically 2 seasons, we're good not being a part of that discussion. So that's interesting. It's a bold bet. I don't know how it plays out yet at this point, but we'll see. It certainly came with the right price tag.
Brandon Vogel with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogue's going to turn our attention to Nebraska and your takeaways with Coach Whipple. He wasn't going to lay out the starting 11, which is good. I think you get a cold one and whip. You let him take his shoes off. He'd tell us, here's the 20 and it's going to be awesome. Here's the script. But in all seriousness, are you able, just from a tone standpoint, to feel a little bit better? If the coaches are going to say, look, they practice hard, they've gotten better, should that ease some tension heading over to Dublin?
Yeah. I mean, the great thing with a coach like Whipple, who has done this for as long as he has, is I think that if you're like, hey, if I was just talking to this guy one-on-one, like, would he tell me who their best quarterback is and who their best running back is? Yeah, he probably would. But you look at this game and the changes Nebraska made in the offseason, and it's I don't know how big of an advantage it is, but it's a little bit of an advantage for Nebraska. So not totally surprised that he took that kind of track with today's press conference. So might as well keep the cards up your sleeve that you have up your sleeve. And it's I don't know. I don't know if anything today made me feel necessarily better about that, because I've always kind of assumed, and it is an assumption, but I think you hope with somebody like Whipple is like, well, what I say is going to be one thing, but like, just know that I've done this for 40 plus years. I've got it under control and I know where I'm going. I'm just choosing not to tell you right now.
Brandon Vogel's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brandon, I liked Whipple's comments today about wanting to run what the offense is comfortable with, asking the guys questions like, what do you like on 3rd and 1 for a run play? Whenever it's 2nd and 9, what kind of play do you like here? And it really stuck out to me because whenever I see a woman down at the end of the bar, that's usually my go-to pickup line. What's your favorite pass play on 3rd and 9? And
wow.
I just want to get your take. Well, viability is a pickup line there.
Are you single?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, maybe that's why.
I mean, 3rd and 9. That's tough circumstances.
I mean,
that's his nickname at the bar too. I mean, you know.
Well,
whatever.
I mean, if she like,
if
she says
it is.
3rd and 9.
I mean, I don't want to critique your approach here, Elijah, but I might start with like 3rd and 3. And see, like, and then you might be truly getting to like what they actually like. They're like 3rd and 9. I've got to have something dialed up.
It's got to work
to get this first down. Like, I'm asking as big as it can possibly get. But no, in a football context, I think it's if Mark Whipple is doing a good job, Nebraska will be in less 3rd and 9s than they were a year ago, and they weren't that bad. They were about average in terms of third and long distance, as far as I can remember. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but that's kind of the thing with him in terms of hiring an experienced. Well, he's also kind of
expensive. Yeah, that's fine. You hit it right.
But experienced offensive coordinator is. You hope you get a little bit from that kind of done everything notion of his career. And I think Nebraska will have that. There's not going to be a lot the Huskers experience in a football game that Mark Whipple hasn't seen before.
Brandon Vogel joining us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Our friends from Union Bank and Trust in studio. We'll have a chance to get caught up with them. They've got the Red Army, man, heading over to Dublin as well. That's really cool. Vogues, does this stadium now become, and I likened it to Rocky IV when Rocky went over to Russia. Right, it was everyone cheering for Drago. Is this dude's article from the Irish Times flip the script and make this a true road game for the Fighting Fitzgeralds and in favor of the Fighting Fitzgeralds?
I don't think it helps.
No, it doesn't
so it's interesting
help
you
at all.
should bring that up because so I saw a tweet about it first, and then it took me like 10 or 15 minutes to actually like get to the article and read it, and I was like, whoa, this certainly goes hard. So if there are Irish fans out there who are like, I don't know, I'm just going to this game, I love American football, I try to watch it as much as possible, and I don't know who to root for, the slant of that article definitely didn't make them more likely to root for Nebraska. That said, based on the last available sales figures we had and what we know of Nebraska fans, I think the Huskers had a pretty sizable edge in terms of fans from America who are traveling over there for that game. So you'd have to eat into a lot of that to truly flip this to a road game environment. But I like probabilities. I like to be pretty measured. I read that article and I was like, this probably doesn't help Nebraska win. It may only decrease it by like fractions of a percentage point, but it wasn't one where I was like, oh, well, clearly the Huskers are going to go out here and win 56-7.
It hasn't done anything to our friends in the desert. It's still 13. It's not jumped to 13.5. There's no hook. The 50.5 over-under is still got that hook involved, but there's no more grenade pins left after this article. And I know there's some tough history with Nebraska, but there's also a lot of good stuff, i.e., the continuing education, and Mr. LeBlanc, and the life skills, Team Jack. I mean, there's a ton of good things Nebraska's done in their time, not just some of the, oh, yeah, that happened too, that was no good.
Yeah, and that was kind of my response to that column was like, here where you can say like, oh, that didn't happen. Like there are things there where you can say, well, there's some additional context that probably would have been useful, but you have somebody who's writing for a, literally and almost totally foreign audience here of like, hey, Ireland, here's what's coming to your shores in less than a week. And I get it. Like you structure that and for the biggest impact. Do I think it was fair to Nebraska? I can't say it's unfair. Do I think it was like the worst possible parts of the Huskers resume? Sure.
Brendan Vogel's with us, Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, Brendan, last thought here before we get you out, and we'll again talk to you again on a Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Got about 30 seconds left here. My question to you is there actually a quarterback battle? I mean, we talked about the Whipple playing his cards close to his chest and saying it's Scott Frost's decision. Do you actually think it's Scott Frost's decision? Do you actually think there's a battle there?
Everything to this prior to today would lead me to believe they were pretty comfortable and pretty settled on Casey Thompson. That said, if you wanted to spring the big surprise card, I guess maybe if Chubba Purdy had narrowed the gap enough there, you go that route. But I expect, and as I said on the I-80 preview podcast this week, which the new one just came out today.
Spotify, iTunes, Google Play.
Yep. I expect Thompson to be the guy piloting this offense in, 9 days from now?
I also anticipate short side option first play of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Callahan did that in the spring game to win some fans over. Whipple, I mean, that was an interesting piece of that today, too, where he said, whoever's going to be back there, we're going to ask them to run the ball. We'll see. We'll see how much.
Brandon Vogel with us. Vogues, take care. Appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, our friends from Union Bank and Trust are in. Kurt Ron is he going to jump on the mic or no? We're working on him. We're working on him.
All right, we're on.
Okay, Kurt says hi. Brian and Aaron Ray are here, decked out in red. We're going to quickly do the old laptop Blair Witch pan. There we go. And go ahead and wave. There we have it. Did you like that, camera guy? I mean, you've done Husker Vision for 100 years. Did I just absolutely fumble that at the one?
3 out of 10.
3 out of 10?
At least they were in frame. I'll give you that one.
Well, we just need a bigger computer screen. All right. How excited are we?
We're pumped.
We are so pumped. That's Aaron. Brian, do you have your corn cob head packed? Did you have one of those?
No, I got plenty of Husker ear packed.
That's good because juniors, my kid's been wanting a corn head, and I'm just like, maybe. And Kurt, you feeling all right? I mean, this is huge.
I love this. I'm missing out. I'm not going on the trip.
But you'll be back here.
We've got representatives
cheering hard.
I feel good
cheering
about that.
hard.
Oh yeah, it'll be loud in our backyard.
Well, let's talk a little bit here about Union Bank and Trust and just the support that has been there for so many Nebraskans over the years, and you guys are going to be showing that crossing the pond. What made you say, "Hey, let's pack the suitcase and go"? This is really once in a lifetime. I mean, there's been Tokyo like 30 years ago. There's been a lot of bowl trips, not recently, but that'll change. Nebraska fans hope. And this Ireland thing, finally, COVID's behind us with the what was supposed to be a year ago, and now you get back to it. And hey, it's going to be a tight ball game with Northwestern.
Yeah, I think we had so many travel plans canceled that COVID year. We were sitting around at Christmas time, and we were like, we should go to Ireland. And we booked it before we had a chance to change our mind. We got to make sure our kids were taken care of for the week, and we got it booked. And so, no turning back. We're super excited.
Well, Brian and Aaron, let's talk a minute here about what you're looking forward to. Aaron, start with you on the trip. What's in the travel guide?
So I'm a big Guinness fan, so
You're awesome.
I'm really looking forward to the Guinness tour. We've heard that the Jameson tour was better than the Guinness tour, so we booked both. But I'm really excited for just the culture, but and the experience for that. But pretty excited about tasting some Guinness in Ireland.
No, and Jameson's got a buddy. We'll call him Coach Brett. That
Great nickname.
It's Coach Brett, and he is introduced me a little bit more to Jameson. Not that I've always been anti-Jameson. That's not the case, but he does lemonade in Jameson. That may be scoffed at by some, but it tastes pretty good during the summertime. So I'm jealous. You get the Jameson. I may find my way there Sunday. I don't know what I'm doing. My plan's to go, of course, do shows and then have fun and figure it out and make it back. We don't want to see Locked Up Abroad, do we? On National Geographic.
Well, might get me a raise.
I just yes, we're gonna plant something in Schmidt's bag. I'm kidding, but Brian, tell me a little bit here. Your fandom with Nebraska and what got you into the Big Red?
I just grew up going to the games. My grandpa's always had season tickets up in North Stadium. I've been going since I was young, and just love it. Trying to pass it on to my girls too. And
that's awesome.
It's just been Aaron and I. She went to the university, so she's always been a fan too. But it's maybe a little bit about helped bring us together a little bit, too. So
that's great. Yeah. Well, and that's what it's been about for so many for so long is the family. Elijah grew up going, and same with me. My mom and dad, we had West Stadium tickets. My brother and I. That's what we all did. We were thankful to have them, and really a good run to see. And that's so much fun passing that down to family and kids.
Yeah, it's my first game is actually when I was in college, but I've always been listening to the radio, growing up out kind of in the middle of nowhere in the country. And so it was really fun to go to a first game. And like I said, it's fun to pass it on to the girls, too.
You mentioned Jameson, you mentioned Guinness. Some other stops you want to make?
Yeah, so we're doing Trinity College. We're going to check out the Book of Kells there. Planning on taking in Sunday Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral and checking that place out too. So other than that, I think we're just taking the local pub scene, just explore a little bit and taking Dublin. So.
Are you in on the Irish breakfast?
Is that the one with the pork and beans?
Well, that's you have bacon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the skit, pork and beans. Remember that?
And I've seen pictures, and it has pork and beans. At least what appears to be pork.
I think there was a skit for In Living Color that had Jim Carrey screaming it for like a half hour.
What movie was that where it's Ben Stiller at prom and he zips it up?
Yes, okay, stop. Yes, yeah, I get you. Not pork and beans.
just beans or pork and beans.
Yeah, that's Elijah Herbel, everybody. We are talking Nebraska, Ireland, but the topic was Irish breakfast. And yes, you have beans, you have bacon. I think there's the blood pudding, right? Mm-hmm. And what else? Cabbage, sausage.
I know the full English has the fried tomato on there. Is that a part of Ireland?
Grilled tomato,
yeah.
Well, Google Irish breakfast for us real quick, Elijah, because, we all have to try it, don't we?
Absolutely. That and soda bread?
Yeah, what? Is it as simple as it sounds?
I don't know, but it's bread, so...
Bread's awesome.
It is.
It's not good for some of us. No, I hammer bread, forgive me. But... No, you have the Irish breakfast. You have Jameson. You have Guinness. What else? Oh, the shepherd's pie.
Yeah, or the stew.
Irish stew is really good. Yeah. I hear it's going to be even better over there, right?
Yeah, and seafood. We're doing a seafood restaurant one night.
Okay. Salmon. Yeah, you're supposed to get salmon over there, and then I've never had oysters. I've never tried them.
A little hot sauce on them.
You're missing out, Schmidt. You're missing out.
Well, that's what I've been told, right? But where do I get them around here?
I wouldn't.
No, I know. Fresh from Nebraska. Right? Do we have the Irish breakfast?
Oh, yeah, we do. We got 1 to 2 strips of Irish bacon.
Sweet.
You add in sausages, eggs, scrambled or fried, baked beans.
You got to go fried. Mm-hmm. Fried eggs.
Baked beans, which just still seems wrong to me. Mushrooms. Potato patties, black and white pudding, toast, and then butter, jam, and then you got tomatoes as the last little option there.
Done. I'm going to hammer one of those.
Eat that all day.
Yeah. I'll take a third round of Irish breakfast. Aaron and Brian Ray with us, Kurt Ron with us here, Union Bank and Trust, and they have taken care of Nebraska for so many years when it comes to banking and helping out Husker fans. Also, they are headed, at least Aaron and Brian are headed over to Ireland. We are up against a quick timeout. We're going to get predictions from everybody in the room here. Not me. I got to make mine in a week. But I want to get what you guys have to say about it and a little bit more on this road trip. But Hail Varsity Radio continues. Real quick heads up, we will spend time. Jeremiah Sirles with us, longtime Husker standout and multiple-year NFL vet. He's up at Vikings camp. Still questions to ask about that offensive line. Sirles will spend time on that. Former Northwestern coach and Colorado head coach Gary Barnett will join us. We'll get his game plan with, what he expects from his old protege, right? Pat Fitzgerald. What's Fitzy got up his sleeve? What's he think of the $1 billion payday for the Big Ten? What's it mean for coaches? And our friend from Chicago, VSiN Sports Network's Danny Burke, works for Brett Musburger. Some thoughts on this weekend and some NFL preseason. Hail Varsity continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Hail Varsity Radio continues on a Thursday. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, our friends from Union Bank and Trust. We're planning this Ireland trip as Aaron and Brian Ray are going to Ireland. Kurt Ron, also from Union Bank and Trust, in studio. We've laid out some of the tours, some of the sites. Has it been tough packing?
Gonna do a carry-on, so yes.
See, I don't want to do carry-on either, but I'm thinking maybe so.
Yeah, we have 3 connecting flights, and so we do carry-on some months.
We're Omaha, Atlanta, Dublin, but we were originally this was going to be crazy. I mentioned locked up abroad. It was going to be Omaha to Philly, Philly to Toronto, Toronto to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Dublin. We thankfully got that flipped because they changed our layover time. That would have been like a 20-hour layover in Amsterdam. And I'm an upstanding citizen, but some of the people I'm traveling with are not.
Naturally.
So Just so we flipped it around. But you guys are hitting some connectors.
Yeah, we go Lincoln, Denver, Denver, Chicago, Chicago to Dublin.
Okay, but at least you're getting Chicago. That'll be a little bit less painless. Well, how are we feeling? How are we feeling, Brian, about kickoff here Saturday?
Yeah, I'm excited for the game. I'm excited to see what the new offense or improved offense looks like. Hopefully, Casey Thompson.
Sure,
gonna be the starting
Casey's
quarterback.
new thumb, baby. I mean, it'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. It's Kool-Aid season yet. It's time to be excited for Husker football. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite times of year. So I think we got it covered. Okay. It's not going to be a blowout like last year.
Last year was fun if you're a Nebraska fan. You take out all that anger and aggression after all those close losses.
I took my daughter to that game last year, and that was probably one of the best times I've ever had a football game. With the scoring explosion we hadn't seen in years, and then the red lights, the flames at end of third quarter with a little AC/DC playing. We both had a great time, so that was a lot of fun.
That's so good. Aaron, how are we feeling?
31-10.
No, so Aaron says the win, the cover, and the under.
And decisive.
Yeah.
Decisive.
I've given that a lot of thought.
And it's probably, 31-3 going into the fourth?
It's going to be a little closer. I think we'll score late to make it a little bit.
It'll be a bit of a throwback. Nebraska take over the fourth quarter.
Yep. Defense is going to. I think our defense is going to be pretty solid.
Defense is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right? It'll be a lot of fun with Garrett Nelson. It'll be a lot of fun with Reimer, Henrich. Secondary, I think's young but good, aside from Newsom. But no, they'll be all right. Just covering it like we do, they think they feel pretty good. They're not overly confident by any means, but I think they've worked pretty hard. And you just never know with new faces, coaching-wise, new faces, player-wise in the portal, but you got a lot of talent. That's the other thing is you've got a lot. You're going to out-talent them theoretically. It's time to win on the field. Kurt, you going to make a prediction?
Sure, I'll jump in. I think it starts out ugly, like ugly. We get out slow, and we figure it out later.
Sure.
And then we pull away. I think it's something like where Aaron's saying, but I think early it's not going to look good.
Well, that
Okay, we're still going to go 30-13.
Okay. Still a win,
It's
still
late.
a cover, and
It's
still
late.
the under.
It's a big fourth quarter.
Yeah, big fourth quarter.
I got 24-10.
24-10.
Pretty
Low
low
scoring, I like
scoring,
that,
pretty
yeah.
tight.
But you'll take it, and you said 13 and a half. You take the cover. There it is. Yep. Aaron, Brian, and Kurt, it was awesome to spend time with you. Thanks for making time and coming in, and thanks for your support with Union Bank.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Quick time out. We'll get you to Sports Center. Hail Varsity continues. Hour 2 on the way. Sirles up next.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Welcome in our favorite NFLer, longtime NFLer, and good lineman, great lineman for Nebraska. He is. Sirles, are you hurrying through the state of Iowa?
I can't get out of it fast enough, Schmitty.
At Sirles71_HSKR. So you've done a little road trip today. What part of Iowa are you in? Are you by Iowa City or are you west of there?
No, I'm a little bit west of Des Moines here. I was up in Minneapolis for the 49ers-Vikings joint practices the last 2 days. I have a client on the Niners, and then I was able to kind of get in there for the former players from the Vikings piece and get on the field and rekindle some of those relationships. So it was really fun last couple days.
That's outstanding.
Sirles, really fast, I just need to get your take here. I've been seeing a lot of reports out of camp on Brandon Ayuk, say he's had a good fall camp. Can you give me any insight? Is that a guy I need to target in my fantasy league this fall?
You know, I mean, I would say yes. However, I'm not sold on Trey Lance, so that's my only hesitation on that one. I think he's plenty good, but I'm not sure the trigger man's going to be the best man after what I've seen the last 2 days.
That's big. That's big insight from Sirles.
Did you play catch with Jimmy G or no?
He wasn't on the trip.
So he's just been working back in San Fran, huh?
Yep, he did not make the trip out to the Twin Cities from what I saw.
Sirles, what type of quarterback did you want behind you? I mean, did it matter? You played with T-Magic, you played with Tommy, and you played with Kirk. Style of offense is important, yes, but how important was it to know what kind of quarterback you had back there for your purposes of protecting the guy?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is based off of what you want out of your quarterback. In college, with the system that we ran, Taylor Martinez was perfect, right? A guy that was absolutely electric with his feet, with the ball in his hand, but you didn't have to ask him to throw the ball 30 times a game or else things weren't going to go so great. That's what you had. But when you get into the NFL, the number one thing I look for with quarterbacks is guys that can deliver the ball on time. The routes and just understanding that, like, if the first read isn't there, immediately getting down to your check down to your second read so that you're not standing back there like a statue and you got the werewolves coming off the edges, right? That was the thing that I always looked for and still do look for in quarterbacks that are young, and that's why I think guys like Mac Jones are having such success, because he's a timing quarterback versus a guy like Justin Fields who was used to kind of sitting back there and having all the time to protect in the world because he had all these great linemen in front of him that are playing in the NFL now. He never had to really have that clock in his head, So I really like the quarterbacks that can get on time, passing rhythm, really have that quick passing game down and not sit back there and take sacks.
Now, Sirles, obviously, Nebraska's offensive line with their pass protection wasn't the greatest last season, but when I go back and watch, sometimes I look and go, man, Adrian Martinez's pocket presence isn't the best, and it almost feels like he trusts his legs too much at times. Do you get the same feel that I get, that maybe a quarterback with some better pocket presence and is able to deliver the ball on time, like you were saying, can alleviate some of those issues we saw with the offensive line and their pass protection?
Yeah, I think Adrian had a little bit of PTSD from the years of him getting destroyed back there. So, I really don't blame him for if all of a sudden the first read wasn't there. I mean, a lot of times anyone will say the first read was, okay, where's the rush coming from? Mm-hmm. So that's hard to be a rhythm quarterback when your eyes are looking at the D-line and not down the field. And that's just part of what was the issue with last year and some of the times. And so, yeah, you want a quarterback that has good pocket presence, but you got to make sure he doesn't get rattled early. That's one thing. Adrian got hit early, and he got hit often in the beginning of games, and that rattles a quarterback at any level. You want to make sure you keep those quarterbacks clean. So if you can have a quarterback that you can keep clean and allow him to get into that rhythm, that's what I really think can alleviate some of those woes. But if you got a quarterback back there that's just trying to not get hit all the time, it really doesn't matter.
Jeremiah Sirles joining us, Hail Varsity Radio. Sirles roadieing back from Vikings camp at Sirles71_HSKR. Sirles, how do you feel about Whipple and his ability to get whoever's the quarterback, Casey or others, in rhythm based on what you've seen or know about this offense? Can Nebraska be a rhythm offense early in the game, even against Northwestern, or is this a work in progress situation with the new offense and the pieces they have to work with?
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see kind of what they script out for the first 25 plays. Everyone has a 25-play script that they like to start the game with. So I'll be really curious to see if they want to say, hey, let's get the run game established, or let's try and get Casey or whoever starting a quarterback into a rhythm early. If I had to guess, I'd assume they're going to try and get Casey into a rhythm early just because they want to get him into a rhythm for the season, right? And then they want to try and maybe get a lead and then try and control the game with the run and really establish the run game there once maybe they can get a lead. So, I would assume that they're going to want, with Whipple's offense, he's going to want to get his QB1 dishing the ball early, whether it's slant routes to Palmer or post routes, check downs to Travis Vogel and a couple deep shots or whatever it may be, and then maybe lean back on the run a little bit as the secondary here, which I'm not, as the inner lineman is screaming at me, run the damn ball. That's just kind of what I would assume is going to happen against Northwestern.
Yeah, Sirles, in a similar vein as that last question, let's go to the offensive line and just how much you think is going to be pre-planned for them in terms of, the guys that are going to be on the field. Well, I think we all assume that they have 5 guys that they're ready to roll with for Northwestern, but Coach Whipple said today that nothing's set in stone, including Turner Corcoran playing at left guard and who those 5 are going to be. So do you think we'll see any sort of rotation in that first quarter, in that first half, seeing a couple different offensive linemen in there or playing different positions along that offensive line? You think any of that's going to happen against Northwestern?
Yeah, I think so. And, even if you look back at last year against Illinois, you had some guys rotating in there. And so, Turner's been banged up a little in camp. He's missed some time. So, he's not necessarily maybe ready to go play 4 quarters right away. But also you want to get some guys rotated in there if the competition wasn't clearly won during training camp. If you're walking out of training camp and you're like, man, I'm still not 100% sold to my starting left guard or right guard or whatever position it may be, sometimes the make or break factor is how do they play in that first game, right? Hey, you're going to get 2 series, we're going to rotate, and then basically whoever plays best and grades out best at the end of the game is going to be our starter moving forward. So there absolutely could be a little bit of that rotational going on the line, still trying to figure out who the best 5 or what the best 5 combination looks like going forward.
Sirles, if you had to predict, what do you think this offensive line is going to be asked to be best at against Northwestern? Then fast forward to midpoint of the year, what do they need to grow into being? And then by the end of the year, what constitutes a good O-line?
Yeah, I think the beginning part of the year is going to be a lot of eliminate the negative plays. And what I mean by that is eliminate sacks and eliminate the negative runs. So if you can even go out there and you say no sacks, like pressures, hurries, that's going to happen, but like no sacks and no minus runs. No, now it's 2nd and 11, or now it's 2nd and 12, or we have a 2nd and 5, and all of a sudden we try and run the ball, and now it's 3rd and 8. Those things can't happen. And that's what really kind of at the beginning of the year you want to see those negative things not being a thing versus you turn it into the midpoint of the season. It needs to be now like, hey, no sacks, no hits, no hurries. And it also needs to be like, hey, now it's got to be efficient runs. And an efficient run for me is a 4+ yard run. So if it's 1st and 10, it needs to be 2nd and 6. Right? That's an efficient run. And now we're not talking about negative stuff not happening. We're making sure that it's now positive and efficient things happening towards the midpoint of the year. By the end of the year, it needs to be that all of that's just the norm, and that's now the standard moving forward.
Sirles, a negative in there that I'm partly expecting to see against Northwestern, hoping not, but the penalties, particularly false starts, those always seem to rear their ugly heads during the first game of a season, and maybe it's because it's tough to prepare for that crowd noise of the first game, or just you're focused on other things during fall camp, making sure the offensive line is ready. But as an offensive lineman, what's the key to eliminating false starts in a first game whenever you're amped up, you're wanting to get the season going, you're looking forward to hitting somebody not wearing the same color as you? How do you eliminate those from your game?
It's all about focus. The snap counts, pre-snap penalties, all that stuff is just merely nothing more than a lack of focus. So you have to be locked in every single play. You can't let the details slip, And those are things that have haunted us for the past, all of Scott Froster's career as a coach here. The little detail things, the things that cost us games, whether it's a false start or a personal foul or whatever, So I think that it's just really a lack of focus. I promise you, if we jump off sides in the first series of the game, I will fly to Ireland and break my foot off in whoever's ass it was.
Well, so give me your reason. Why have the details been so flighty? I know kids don't want to commit penalties. I know coaches coach fundamentals. I know there's communication. So is it just too much want to, or is it just guys that are scared to screw up?
It's the thing. You never want to lose focus. Right? It's never something as a player where you're like, oh, yeah, I wasn't focused. But sometimes you can start focusing on the wrong things. So it's like, oh, man, what was the play? Where am I going? Who's the mic? What's that? And that comes from a lack of preparation in my mind. If you're not so keyed on what the X's and O's are and what's going on, then sometimes the first thing they'll go is the snap count, right? Because that's the last thing on your mind because you're worried about not screwing up a play, or you're so amped up on a technique that you're about to try and use because that you lose focus. And so a lot of it just becomes what you're focusing on and when, and what your preparation level was going into that. You know, if you're so well prepared that you know exactly what you're going to see because you've watched tape, you know what's happening, you prepared during the week for practice, then you're focusing on the little things like, okay, make sure the snap count's this. Boom, I'm locked in on that. That's the next thing, and then everything else is reaction after that. You know, and I think that sometimes with the snap count specifically, that's what goes on. The other times emotions run high. Football's an emotional game, but it's about being able to reel your emotions in and channel your emotions in the right way. So that's between the whistles, between the white lines, so you're not hurting your team, because that's when it really just spirals out of control for guys. I think back to Caleb Tanner against, Northern Illinois last year when he got the personal foul on the interception, right? Like, those things just can't happen based off of an emotional feel.
Jeremiah Sirles with us, Hail Varsity Radio at Sirles, 71_HSKR. Sirles, we're winding down. I fly out Wednesday. I may try and give you a shout or a prediction, get a prediction from you here at the end of next week or at some point. I'll try and connect with you. But I want to ask you about what you are going to cut from the Irish breakfast. We got into it last segment. An Irish breakfast has bacon, sausages, baked beans, eggs, mushrooms, grilled tomatoes, some leftover potatoes. You have those leftover potatoes are made into hash, and I've seen you eat hash before, so I know you like that. You have toast, and then you have blood pudding. So what are you punting?
Oh, the beans for sure. Beans are not a breakfast food. You can never convince me of that. Like, the beans and the blood pudding are freaking out.
You got to choose between Guinness and Jameson.
Jameson.
You're punting Jameson, or you're going with Guinness?
No, I'm taking with Jameson. Jameson all the live long day. I ain't cutting out whiskey.
Okay.
Okay. Just in the same vein, you got to watch one of the two. They're both on TV, and you're required to watch one: rugby or soccer.
Men's or women's?
Men's.
I'd rather watch women's soccer than men's soccer, and then I'd rather watch rugby.
That is a great answer, Sirles.
You do remember my wife?
No, I know. Is she riding with you?
She is not riding with me, but you never know when they're listening, Schmidt.
No, I know. No, dude, Elijah's face is like, huh? What? Women's soccer? Is like, of course he's going women's soccer. Totally. Absolutely.
Happy wife, happy life.
For sure. What are you putting on the smoker next Saturday? Have you gotten that far? I mean, you're not going. It sucks. I wish you were going, but you're not.
I'm going to be playing in the member in Firethorn. So I'll have the game pulled up on my phone, watching it there, but I'm going to be trying to play a little game of whack that little white ball and not yell at myself.
All right.
See, that's actually, honestly, a really, really good time to go out and golf because the courses are going to be empty on Husker game day.
No, it's.
I'll just rewatch it.
Yeah, you're good.
I just said I'll rewatch it. You know, I'll rewatch it once I get the all-22. I'll watch it on my phone, obviously, but I'm really hoping that it's not much of a game. But you know, you just never know with those freaking purple people from Chicago.
Yeah, what is it about that? We'll dive into it more, but they just find a way, man. It's always stressor for sure.
Always.
Jeremiah Sirles with us. Safe travels, Jay. Thanks for checking in with us. Best to you and the fam, and we'll touch base again, bud.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Go Big Red.
There he is, Jeremiah Sirles with us, standout Husker, longtime NFLer, our favorite Viking and Charger and Panther. And where else am I missing? Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And find him on Twitter at Sirles71_HSKR. The payday that's just phenomenal for the Big Ten, $1 billion and change, is inked. The Big Ten will own Saturday with CBS, NBC, Fox, and FS1. That's incredible. So what does that mean for coaches and ADs? Gary Barnett, Colorado and Northwestern Hall of Famer, will join us. We'll get an appetizer of a preview, too, with maybe what are some of the things Northwestern can do, some thoughts on Nebraska. Coach Barnett's next. Thursday, it's Hail Varsity. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Fellas, you think we could listen to the radio listen?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back into it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Hall of Fame coach Gary Barnett with us, Northwestern, Colorado, Missouri. Coach, you got any pull? I've tried to get a tee time. This is the last hurrah for Saturday golf, potentially. I got a short window between the end of baseball season and football, and everything's booked. Do you have a bat line you can reach out to?
No.
Not for me.
Not there.
Not for me, not there.
Somewhere else. If you're in Arizona, maybe, or in Colorado, maybe, but I can't help you in Lincoln. Actually, my buddy's not even in town that might be able to help you, so no. The answer is no.
All right, moving on. Big Ten payday, $7 billion. How does that sound?
20 years ago, I would have never believed that this was possible. But, it's not 20 years ago. And apparently, people like college football.
People love
it.
And,
the TV people are tapping into that. I mean, it must be just absolutely even bigger than you and I think, Chris, because that kind of money, which is probably going to come out to over $100 million per year per school in the conference, and that just gives you all sorts of freedoms and lets you grow your product. So, if anybody thought it was going to go away, it's not. So it's right now, this very day, it's worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of people interested in it, and that's how you end up with a $7 billion. I don't know, how many zeros is that? $7 billion?
That's a lot.
I know.
I'm a broadcast major, not a math guy, my friend. I mean, but listen, I'm interested though with the, what do you do now, right? And do you reinvest? Do you can spend? So if someone's calling you up, hey, coach, we just got $100 million a year for the next X number of years, and we've got great platforms. It's not just Fox. I mean, it's also going to be BTN, which has continued to grow, and then you have NBC and CBS. I mean, you've got a great trifecta there for your brand. And the other part is there's no ESPN, there's no ABC. That's going to be weird. Growing up watching you guys play on Black Friday, man. I mean, it was ABC, it was Musburger, it was incredible, and it's been Fox for a few years now, so it's not super different. But I don't know. How would you spend it? How would you save it? Tell me what you do if you're an AD.
Well, I think there's one item is you're not going to be on game day. You know that. Yeah. That the conference is not going to be on the ESPN game day, so they'll come up with their own version of that. But two, I think you've got to somehow make sure that you have access to this share of the money, because you're never going to get this kind of money anywhere else. So that means and it's the conference that gets the money, and then they split conference splits that money between the teams. You have to ensure that you're going to be one of those teams. And I think just from experience of being at Northwestern and understanding when I went there in 92, that even as I was interviewing for that job, there was a movement out there to take Northwestern out of the Big Ten and move them into either the Ivy League or another league. And that was because it wasn't bringing any value to the conference. And even though it was an original conference member, and even though, the Big Ten always sticks together and all that sort of stuff, there was just a couple of votes away. There was a time in which there was a couple of votes away from them not being part of the Big Ten. So I say that in that you're going to use that money, you better find a way to stay in that conference in football, because when $100 million goes away, that's a big drop off, and because you're probably going from $100 million to $15 million or $20 million. I mean, that's a big drop off, and your cost factors and salaries and those sort of things are going to change if you can't stay in the conference. So reinvestment, I don't know, but whatever you have to do to stay in that conference, which this is a TV football deal. Mm-hmm. So that means you've got to make sure that your football program is involved and part of this big deal. So I think it puts a lot more pressure on coaches. I think it puts a lot more pressure on ADs to find some sort of winning combination so that you can continue to bring value to this conference. Because if you think you're in and you got it locked, you don't, and not with that kind of money out there. People aren't going to pay that kind of money to watch less than stellar play and to have less than stellar programs. So, I mean, I think that's got to be thought through, and I think that's a huge factor going down the road.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. We'll get to Nebraska Northwestern in a second. Does not being on game day or being a part of ESPN, does that hurt short term, or is it a bigger long-term problem?
Well, I don't know. The unintended consequences of that are, can you create a game day atmosphere, game day type of program?
They've got big noon kickoff. I mean, Fox has got. They're trying right now.
Well, I understand about the kickoff, but it's that 2 or 3 hour game day experience that's become part of the game, and it's become part of everybody's ritual on Saturdays. Now, I do believe it's starting to wane a little bit. It's like everything else. There's a start and a beginning. A beginning and an ending, and my guess is their viewership has probably diminished a little bit, but I don't know that. That's just a pure guess. I know my own experience is I don't watch as much game day as I used to, so I don't know that my experience is what everybody else has. But I think that Fox is going to have to come up with, and they do have a really good show because I know Joel's on it, and he does a really good job of breaking down some stuff. But will they have the same appeal as game day? I don't know, but game day's gotten old, and I know as much as they've tried to perk it up, it's still gotten a little stale. So I would say that's, and the reason that's so important is because that's what parents watch. That's what recruits watch. That's what recruits' friends watch. All that stuff, all the things that are said on game day influence the recruiting cycle. And you just simply have to go through and take your school, whatever school it is, and see how many times it's mentioned on game day on Saturday. And it's subliminal, but when we used to have somebody track and see how many times they mentioned Colorado on a game day, as opposed to Georgia or Alabama, or it used to be Florida State got a lot of it, Notre Dame. But that that's money. That's recruiting. That influences people. So can they get the same kind of audience on a similar show? I don't know, but whether not being on game day or not really matters that much. I think that's one of the things you never know. But I know we always felt it had an influence.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, we'll talk a little more next week as we get closer to kickoff. But as we look now, what do you think of this Northwestern team? What do you think of Skoronsky? He's a left tackle. Adebore, the defensive tackle, and then, of course, Helinski and Hull. And overall, how are you feeling with this Northwestern squad as they try and bounce back this season?
Chris, I haven't done a great deal of research on it. I know Fitz is one of the best at bouncing back. They go from being in the Big Ten championship to having a poor year to coming back and playing in the Big Ten championship. And so I think they're at their most dangerous situation when they're coming back from a bad season. I know Fitz really liked his recruiting class, and he got kids that he just couldn't believe he could get after having the kind of record he had. So, he's good at putting teams back together and creating a cause there. So there has been now a rivalry between Northwestern and Nebraska since Nebraska came into the Big Ten. They've always had these unbelievably exciting games, which can go either way, and it's usually the last play of the game. So I know those players are playing that up to a hilt. Coaches are playing that up. And the fact that you're probably the only game on that day really, adds to the drama and adds to the excitement of it and adds to probably the importance of it.
You think there's some ghosts, some mixed feelings on the Nebraska side? I mean, Scott's trying to get off on the right foot, and that's not been the case, Coach Barnett, in a lot of early season games, early season moments.
No, I know, and it's you probably can't overestimate how important this game is for Scott and Nebraska. And if they lose, we'll go on and say, well, it's just the first game, and we'll be okay. We'll do this, do that. But it really is an important thing. It's important because the opening game always affects the outlook for your fans for the rest of the season, for the next week, and all that matters. All of that adds up. And when you have a bad game like that, it's so hard to overcome that public mentality. And that public mentality gets played out on the air, on the various TV shows and sports centers and that kind of stuff. So, that noise becomes real if it happens.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, we'll let you be. I want you to hit him far and straight this weekend. You got any smoking going on, any rib work?
No, I'm not going to do any outside cooking this week. So I'm just going to try to find a way to hit a fairway. So anyway,
I got annihilated in Omaha last weekend. Man, front nine was fine, the back nine. I mean, you're on a par 5 to start off, and you're laying 4, and there's still 400 yards to go. It's time to retire.
That's not a good start, Chris.
No, it's not, man. Coach, we'll talk soon. Thanks again.
You got it. Talk to you later.
Yeah, he was going to give me a little pep talk about being 450 out on a par 5 laying 4. That was pure hell. Danny Burke's on the way.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Burke's Best Bets. Danny Burke with us, and the Pride of Chicago VSiN Sports Network, his show Rush Hour, and the Danny Burke podcast at Danny Burke 5 on Twitter is where you find him. Danny Burke, it is preseason football, plenty of NFL, my friend, some college football on the horizon, and a little bit of Major League Baseball. How's your week?
It's going good, man. I mean, you and I both gearing up to head across the pond this upcoming week. I'll be there a little bit earlier than you. We're making the trip. We're going London, Amsterdam, and then Ireland. So if we end up making it there, I think that'll be a bigger miracle than if Nebraska can win and cover.
Over, under, you are just harassed at customs. I'm just asking. I'm just laying it out there for the people.
Oh, man, the number, I don't think you can put a number high enough, but it's got to be somewhere in the double digits for sure.
I'd love to get a betting preview with Danny next week after a day at the shops in Amsterdam and just see how poorly that goes.
What's this guy?
I may have seen the light and have a different handicap on the game by that point.
This man's on drugs. What is going on? Pretty good.
Geez.
Well, let's talk Bears, and they're in action tonight, preseason. Tell me what you like, what are you seeing, and is it valuable?
Yeah, this game it's been a funky one for sure. And I was looking at this spot on Monday, and I was talking about this on my podcast because the opening numbers had Seattle at about -3 in the hook. And I'm thinking, all right, that makes sense. I'm kind of wanting to jump in on it sooner rather than later, but I also wanted to see a money line price that would be worth the price of admission to betting it on the side of Seattle. And I didn't really see one, and by the time I looked again, the line had already moved to like 4.5, and then we saw it get as high as 5.5. But then when I was talking about it on my other show, Rush Hour, there was one lone book in Illinois that still had -4 in the hook, and I'm kind of beating myself up because I'm like, man, do I really want to get involved? I could have got it at 3.5 earlier. And I'm like, you know what? So be it. It's preseason. Hopefully it shouldn't matter that much based on the number. I mean, and especially because there were 4 in the hooks and then the 5 in the hooks out there, the chance to get beat by a 5, knock on wood, is going to be slim to none. So I ended up laying the 4.5 with the Seattle Seahawks. And the reason that I did that is because you look at the Seattle team, I mean, you had 2 quarterbacks. Again, this is at the beginning of the week. You had 2 quarterbacks in Drew Lock and Geno Smith competing for their starting jobs. Eason presumably wasn't going to play because he didn't play a snap in the first game. So this game means more to Seattle. They need to figure out who their starting quarterback is going to be. Conversely, for the Bears, yeah, you'll get a handful of reps from Justin Fields, but otherwise it's going to be Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman taking it the rest of the way. With no knock on those guys. I mean, I bet the Bears last week on the money line and it came home, so I was content, but I just don't think that they're going to be of the competitiveness of guys competing for the number 1 job, right? It's a completely different beast. And it's this Bears team coming on a short week, which in any NFL game is going to be tough, but especially preseason, where your game plan probably isn't as fulfilled. So, again, I laid 4 in the hook. News comes out, Drew Lock has COVID. Then this line moves down from as high as 5.5 to 3.5. So you're seeing it at 3.5 in some shops right now. You know what? I still back Seattle at this point. I mean, I'm sitting steady on my 4.5 spread, but if you haven't got invested yet, I still think Seattle is the right side because of the reasons I listed. It's a short week for the Bears. Geno Smith is still competing for that top job. I mean, this is his career on the line. It seems weird to say that for a preseason game, but truthfully it is. And look, Easton's not terrible. So I think the Seahawks are a team that still has a lot to figure out. Not that the Bears aren't, but, the short week and just knowing who their quarterback is probably isn't going to benefit them as much as it is the Seahawks tonight. So if you can get the 3 out there, I'd probably look to lay it with the Seahawks this evening.
Danny Burke is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, Burke's Best Bets. And Danny, I was sitting here thinking about asking you whether or not it's smart to put down an NFL futures bet on the Bears to have the worst record in the NFL this year, but I don't want to offend you, so we're gonna gloss over that one. I want to talk about just preseason NFL betting as a whole. Is there money to be had there, or is it the number 1 sign that you have a betting problem?
First of all, thank you for not bringing it up. Second of all, it's funny, and I still kind of preface it when I talk about preseason because I know people have that mindset about it that it's like, what are you doing? You're addicted. It's crazy. They kind of scoff at it. But
well, it just feels so unpredictable.
Right. It is to a certain extent, for sure. But, there's people out there, pro bettors, who make their cake off of preseason betting. And the reason is because you almost get a better idea of what to expect out of these teams because the coaches are literally telling you how many reps and snaps and series these quarterbacks are going to get. You get trends in history that benefit you, like with Harbaugh, with Baltimore. I mean, I think the dude is now like 22-0 in the first game of preseason, the last 22 consecutive opening preseason games. It's things like that you can still take advantage of because still a lot of people don't partake in it because they think it's ridiculous. But now that it's getting more and more recognized and people just want football action as soon as possible, they're seeing that there is a path to success. I'll give you the example last week. I mean, I told you I backed the Bears on the money line. They end up coming through and winning. It wasn't pretty, but hey, we cashed our ticket. And the reason that I liked it is because you got a team in the Bears who had a young roster needing to fill spots. A lot of guys have that competitive fire because there's a lot of open opportunities in this young core. Eberflus, brand new coach, wanting to make a good impersonation in his first game coaching, especially at Soldier Field. The backup quarterback depth chart, a little bit more competitive for the Bears than it is for the Chiefs. So that's one example. The other, I did the Seahawks and Steelers game over the total. This thing soared over. And the reason that I did it is because you had 5 quarterbacks who really needed to prove their worth. I mean, you had Mitch Trubisky, who needs to prove he's a number one guy. Mason Rudolph needs to prove that he can be a number one guy. And Kenny Pickett had a lot to prove in the sense that he was their quarterback that they drafted. On the side of Seattle, we already talked about it. You had Drew Lock and Geno Smith vying for that number one spot, so you would assume there would be a lot of offensive production. So really, you kind of got to scout out those opportunities, tie that in with where you're seeing these line moves, and you can get an idea of where the sharp action is going and which situation pertains nicely to a specific team or bet, and that's how you can win off a preseason.
Danny Burke with us, Burke's Best Bets, VSiN Sports Network. Danny, about a minute or so. Over under right now, 50.5, Nebraska Northwestern. Are you feeling a 47-3 number?
Not so sure about that, but I know you guys and I have talked about this several times now. You never feel comfortable laying the 13-point spread with Nebraska. I mean, I think Northwestern could be like really, really bad, but anything can happen in week 0, and especially when it's the Huskers going against Pat Fitzgerald. But if I weren't going to the game because I don't want to sweat out an under, I think I would objectively bet the under in this spot because, I mean, Nebraska's defense should be able to contain Northwestern's offense, which, again, just could be dreadful. And conversely, yeah, Nebraska's offense should be better, but they could be slow out of the gates, and you know that Fitzgerald typically has a tough defense. So if there's one bet I'd maybe consider right now before I start getting some liquor in me at the game, I think it would be betting the under.
There he is, Danny Burke, VSiN Sports Network, Burke's Best Bets, at Danny Burke 5 on Twitter's where you find him. Brad of Chicago, thanks for the time.
You bet, guys. You're the best. Take care.
Gotta love him, Danny Burke, all over it. Some thoughts for your NFL preseason. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We'll wind down a Thursday on the road tomorrow at the Hale Varsity Club in La Vista, 4 to 6. You don't want to miss that. The return of someone special up next.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HaleVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hale Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Thursday. Don't forget, on the road back in Omaha tomorrow. Hale Varsity Club, where we're going to be 4 to 6 in La Vista next to Cabela's and Embassy Suites. Now, you know we're in Lincoln. Deb, the spa lady, 20th and Highway 2. Home Innovation Spas, an incredible location up in Omaha. We are excited. Football season's here, and Deb, the spa lady, is going to soak away all that stress for you with a spa she'll help you pick out. Deb, how are you? I've missed you.
I know it. I'm back. I am back and raring to go. I'm great, and I actually have inventory. So it's exciting to be able to talk about that and to know that you come in, we can get you a spa in a matter of days, not months.
You know what? Days, that turnaround time, that two-person spa for you and Mama, or the neighborhood party, or how about the swim spa? Deb, you've got a selection that can't be beat.
We really do, and we are getting ready for the Nebraska State Fair, and so we have already started our State Fair pricing. So if you come in now, you're going to get those State Fair deals. And, in fact, you could come in, get your spa, we'll get it delivered in time for you to go to the State Fair, and when you get home and your feet are killing you, you can hop in your hot tub. I think that's a great plan.
Well, and how about that de-stressor? Say the ball game's a little tight.
There and yes, and ball games for sure. We're going to need those coming up real soon too.
Absolutely. Deb, the spa lady, Home Innovation Spas, spasonline.com, 20th and Highway 2 in Lincoln. Deb, tell folks again, our audience in Omaha, they want to meet you, they want to see you, they want to stop by Home Innovation Spas if they haven't yet.
Okay, we're in Omaha at 138th and Industrial. We're in Lincoln at 20th and Highway 2. And you can go to our website, that's spasonline.com.
You know, I need to know how you think Nebraska's going to do real quick, and how are your Chiefs going to do?
Oh, I think I'm excited for Nebraska. I really am. I think it's going to be a fun year. I think we're going to win some of those games that are close. We're going to win them this year. So that's going to be exciting. And, of course, the Chiefs, oh, my gosh, I can't wait for that. It's going to be great.
Is this the year the Broncos, my Broncos, finally snap their 7-year losing streak to the Chiefs?
I don't think so,
No.
but I know you're going to give us a run for our money.
That was Deb's sweet voice saying, hell no. She's just like, no, not going to happen, Elijah. No way, shape, or
It's gonna be
form.
nice.
Yeah, you're gonna be pleasant. You know what,
Yeah.
Elijah? She'll pick out a spa for you. It can be orange, it can be blue, whatever. I mean, but you know what? It's still going to be a Chiefs household with her. Deb, it is awesome to be with you. Thanks again for jumping on with us. I can't wait to do football season with you, and it's
You bet.
so awesome to talk with you. And thanks to for what you've done with so many years of great spas and of course helping folks relax.
You betcha. We're going to keep at it too.
All right, there she is, Deb the Spa Lady. Deb, you take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, good to hear from Deb the Spa Lady. Home Innovation Spas, get yourself a spa for the fall. And they have all the selection you want, all the inventory. The swim spa is great. 20th and Highway 2 in Lincoln. 138th and Industrial Road in Omaha. Hail Varsity Club tomorrow, 4 to 6. Come see us. And we'll talk to you at 4 with Hail Varsity Radio.